You're visiting the Mom Next Door and our stories of faith. I'm glad you dropped by for a visit. Please stay a while and hear what the Lord has done in the lives of moms just like you and me. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mom Next Door Stories of Faith. I'm your host, Pam Fields. Have you ever felt like me, or has anybody ever suggested to you that following Jesus in the everyday, unseen moments of your motherhood are kind of like some sort of an annoying placeholder to just, we're obligated to keep it until we get to like the real world and like all when the real stuff is going to happen. And so like, if we could just get these kids raised, we could get on with the calling of our lives. I think that is suggested a lot of times to us. Sometimes we feel really buried under those mundane things in life, the meals, the messes, the noise, and the never-ending to-do lists. My guest today, Katie LaPierre, is going to talk to us about just those things. We're going to be talking about keeping eternity in mind while we're living fully here in the day-to-day, and how God meets us, not just in the big spiritual moments, but right now in the middle of our ordinary days. Thank you for being here. I hope that you will be encouraged. So, Katie, why don't you just take it away?
Okay. My name's Katie, and I've been running a ministry called Eternally Minded Mamas online for about 10 years. And I chose that title very much on purpose. My life verses are Colossians 3, 1 through 2. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. And I was talking to the Lord about that and saying, how am I supposed to do that? I'm on the earth. I'm here. I'm cleaning dishes. I'm wiping bottoms. I'm settling sibling squabbling. And you're telling me to set my mind on things above. And so I was just on a quest to figure out, how can I do that? How can I be here and be present with my children in the midst of the temporal and mundane and have eternity in mind? And God, it's like he reached across the universe to help me see that. And later on in chapter 3, God said in verse 23, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. And then this was the key where I felt like God was on a megaphone. You are serving the Lord Christ. Well, wait a minute. I thought I'm serving my family. I thought I'm serving Hudson and George and Lydia. I thought I'm serving my husband. And God's like, nope, you're serving me. When you're serving them, you're serving me. And that just totally shifted my mind to like, this is how I keep eternity in mind. I take all of those little tasks, because he said, did he say, when you're doing really spiritual things, do it heartily as for the Lord? No, whatever you do. And later on, he says, if you eat or drink, can we think of anything more mundane than eating or drinking? And so it's like God saying, hey guys, all of it can be done for me. All of the little silly things, silly that you have to do as mamas throughout the day, it all can be done for the Lord Jesus Christ. And therefore, it can all be eternal work. So that's where my passion began. And I'm such a visionary woman. I'm like, what's next? What's next? What's next? So you can imagine waking up every day to do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like my nightmare. You know, there's some women who just wake up and they love routine. They love schedules and procedures. And I'm like, this is a nightmare for me. And so it was like one time I was talking to my husband and I said, what do I do with all this vision that God has given me? And he said, well, since he's called you to keep the home, why don't you cast all that vision into your home? And that was another way for me to have an eternal mindset in the midst of the temporal and mundane. And so since, you know, I'm not going to say every day's been so exciting since then, but it's kind of like, you know, that rubber band that snaps back. It's like, I'll start thinking, is this it? Is this what I'm going to do with my life, Lord? And then it's like, whoop, the Lord snaps me back and says, yep, you're going to serve me, whether you're serving me as a CEO in some company, or you're serving me on the floor while you clean up puke, or you're doing potty training again. And I should share that I was not raised in a Christian home. My mother was a drunk She died from alcoholism about, let's see, it'd be 15 years ago because it was right around when my son was born. And so my mother, God has blessed me to have nothing but pity for her. I have no bitterness, no resentment. I just feel sadness that that was her life, was the life of a drunk. And so I definitely was not taught, trained how to think of eternity, how to raise a family, how to
Mm-hmm.
homeschool, how to have a lot of kids. And
Mm.
I was the oldest of three, and I just had my 11th baby, let's see, 7 months ago.
I lost
And
count.
I
I
just
thought
can't
you just
believe it.
had your 10th.
Nope. Yeah. Little Penny girl is here,
Oh,
and
okay.
she is adorable. I named her Penelope because I wanted a poppy. Day one, we bring her home and she's a penny. And I'm like, what? I never wanted a penny, but we have a penny. And
Well,
so,
those are
yeah, so
being outdated and obsolete. So we need pennies now. We need
okay,
lots of
that's
pennies.
right. The year that the penny goes away, I get my own.
Yep. There you go.
So, yeah, I just want to encourage those moms out there that feel like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't taught. I wasn't trained. Look at these other moms. They understand better, that they were raised by Christian moms who love the
Yeah.
Lord, and the Lord does not need our moms to teach
Yeah.
us about him, and the word
Right.
is sufficient. We don't need a
Right.
Christian upbringing to love the Lord and to serve him.
Right.
So that gives you an idea, a little bit of my background and my passion for that ministry.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I know sometimes I can get very compartmentalized as I'm doing things like, okay, we think, what are we going to do for the Lord today? And we go, oh, okay, taking a meal to that person, that's a holy task, like delivering a meal to a shut in, but serving my own children, we forget like that is a holy task as well. Right. But we kind
Mhm.
of like, here is the Lord's work, it's in a box. And
Yeah.
then but then we live in the day to day. And then I think about that. Is it Matthew chapter 9, where, Jesus is on his way to heal a little girl, if I remember right. And then the woman reaches out and touches his garment and he heals her. And the thing that I think is so precious and touching in that, well, multiple things, but let's just narrow it down to say, you know what? He was on his way to do one ministry, but he did not miss the ministry that was right next to him.
Mhm.
He wasn't like, you know what, I've got important things to do. Am going to do the work of healing somebody, so you're going to have to wait. He was like,
Mhm.
whatever is before us, the places are before us, and those, I would imagine that was an unplanned, perhaps little inconvenience,
Yeah.
but he stepped into it. And that's what we want to emulate as moms. How many times are we inconvenienced, but maybe it's actually God's perfect plan for us to minister, in a different way to the people that are in front of us.
Yeah, he said, greatest in the kingdom is the one who is servant to all.
Yeah.
And I think that our level of love for the Lord is demonstrated greatest in the home, because I can go out, like actually, I'm planning today to go visit with two elderly women in our church. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to be patient and kind and smiling. And anyone can do that. But when you have 10 kids, because my oldest moved out at home, running around, God gave me two boys in a row that are equal to 12 children. They're
Yeah.
just rambunctious, crazy. And that is where my faith is tested, not in
Yeah.
these huge ministry opportunities, going to
True.
conferences and speaking, all of these things that people label as ministry. My heart is revealed in the nighttime feedings and the stomach bug that has hit us again. And that is where ministry is really demonstrated, because that's the stuff I don't want to do. Romans
Absolutely.
12:1 and Romans 12:1 is just it's so fascinating to me and sad how much fighting happens over music in churches.
Mm.
And because people say this is worship, this is worship. It's very important. I understand music's important. God created it. He made our mouths to sing to him. But did you know there's one recording of Christ singing one song?
I've never
There's
thought about it.
one time. So we think the creator of the universe comes and becomes a man. He is going to show us what ministry looks like. He is going to show us what's important.
Uh-huh.
What did he do? He served. He
Yeah.
washed feet. He sang one song one time.
Yeah.
It's like that's clearly not what he thought of worship. And then Romans 12:1 says, "This is your worship. Present yourself as a living sacrifice." And all the moms said, "Amen." Every day, when you're a mama, every day feels like a living sacrifice. Yes, I'm alive,
Mhm.
Lord, but man, I feel like I'm sacrificed. I feel like
Mhm.
I'm having to lay myself aside all day long. And
Mhm.
that is where real ministry happens. And
Mhm.
that's another way to have a eternal mindset in mothering is saying, Lord, this is my acceptable worship to you. Presenting myself again this morning to you every day.
Mhm. Mhm. For sure. And I think that when you go deliver the meal or go sit with those ladies and have tea, it's like it's a it is a ministry, but it's something you can step out of, like, okay, that's ministry's done.
Yes.
And really that is a sprint of a ministry,
Mhm.
where motherhood is a marathon of ministry.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm a quitter. I am a quitter. The fact that I'm still married is a miracle of God. Like, I just quit every single thing in my life. The only thing I haven't quit is marriage, my walk with the Lord, and being a mom. And a lot of that is
Yeah.
there's no way out. I mean, unless you're just going to really quit, you
Right.
know,
But
and
even
being a
in
mom
that,
is a marathon.
it's a marathon, and we can lock in and say, I'm going to do that thing and I'm never going to stop. But I don't think, I mean, yes, there are mundane tasks to being a mom. There are some of the mundane things we do over repetitive over and over. How many times do I have to load the dishwasher, or do I have to, whatever, all the things, meal plans. But it's also, I don't know, I found so many opportunities to be creative within it
Mhm.
and to use my giftings. And I guess in some ways, like, no 2 days are exactly the same,
Yeah, yeah,
because,
that's true.
yesterday we did a science project, or today we're living a science project,
Yeah.
that we weren't planning. And, our interactions with people, like, no day is the same. And now
Yeah.
my youngest, I'm a little further than you. My youngest is almost 13, and my oldest is turning 30. I have
Mhm.
6 grandkids, and
Oh,
when everybody is here, it it is like, it's not really chaos, but it kind of is an there's it's, oh gosh, I should really work on a way to explain this, but it's like our family is a unit where somebody's like, hey, I need to go pick this one up on ballet. Would you do it? Yep, I got him. How about this? Who wants to start the vegetables? Okay, who can do this? And we're all like
mhm.
moving and flowing, and and then somebody gets sick and we're like, oh, redo that. We need to change
Yeah,
that. Let's
yeah.
now, oh, this one got a flat tire. Oh no. We need to run this one. And it's, I mean, I guess it could be seen as chaos, but I love it, because what I see
Mhm.
is the teamwork of it. And I see that orchestra of family that is like just moving together in some harmony. And I think that some of that are days where we plan it and it's like, this is how it's going to
Mhm.
go. But I
Yeah.
think spontaneous, there's a lot of just spontaneous life living, which keeps life exciting, you know?
Yes. Although we did it, and I think that's more difficult for some moms than others. I do
Yeah.
love that aspect. I love like the creativity that is allowed and that happens. And I love also that you're teaching your children, we're a team. Like
Mhm.
we'll have family meetings. I have family meetings regularly. I'm like, family meeting. Everyone's in the living room, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is what's happening today.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And we are a team. This is not mommy's home. I am the delegator. I am the keeper of the home, but this is our home. What do you guys
Right.
think? How do you guys want this home to run well? And you'd be surprised the neat ideas kids come up with, young
Yeah.
kids, 8 years old, 7 years old. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So including them, not just always barking orders, but having them take
Mhm.
ownership and see, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is our home. We need to make sure it runs well. I tell the kids when we're decluttering or doing things maybe they don't want to do. I say, do you know that there are studies on how clutter impacts your mind, your brain, your mood. This is not just for mommy. This is for you. This is for daddy. This is for our whole family. And that
Yeah.
really helps, I think, the children not to become maybe resentful or, here goes mom just yelling at us again. It's like, let's look, how can we make our home the best home it can be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is really a launching for them to have their own and be prepared to
Yeah.
do those tasks.
And adapting, like you touched on adapting, that's such an important life skill that a
Yeah.
lot of adults don't get. It's like, oh, my whole life is ruined because I had this plan today and now this is happening instead. And I tell my
Yeah.
kids, listen, you are only as happy as you can deal with disappointment. So if you are a person who cannot handle disappointment, cannot handle a change of plans, you will be a
Mm-hmm.
miserable adult. So I tell them,
Mm.
practice now, practice saying, okay, the Lord had something else in mind today. Just having these one liners, the Lord had something else in mind today. Like
Mm.
my dad always says, we'll just see what the Lord has in mind. We'll just see what the Lord has in mind. I heard that. My dad got saved later on in life, and he just says that all the time. And it blesses me rather than what do I have in mind? What am I doing today?
Mm. I remember many years ago, I went to Bible study fellowship. And when
Mm-hmm.
in the children's program, they taught this little song of, Good morning, God. This is your day. I am your child. Show me your way. And it's like, okay, that's how I want to approach each day. Good morning, God.
Yeah.
What do you
Mm-hmm.
have planned for me today? And I
Yeah.
tend to be um I don't know, you were saying to me as we were chatting online and stuff that you were a type B mom and you're really relaxed and kind of like to go with the flow. And I was thinking, oh, I'm totally the opposite. I like a schedule and I like to, organize. And then I realized actually I like a schedule on paper and I like to be organized and like have my plan in place. But I also think I'm very quick to throw it out the window. Like, oh, forget it. We're
That's
just going to do
so
something else
good.
instead. Like, I think it's
So
kind of
great.
like a little bit of a mix of that. I think it's
And I
good
think
to
we
have
need
some
we need to
plans.
all be like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's
We
good to
need
have
to
some
all
plans.
be like that. Just having plans. Our children don't need to grow up in total chaos where every day mom's rolling out of bed at noon and going, all right, what are we doing today? Like we need to have some sort of order. Our God is a God of order.
Hmm.
I happen to marry the most type A man on the planet where everything's urgent and must be done now and must be done the right way. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to drive this man insane. Thankfully, we're kind of balancing each other out
Hmm.
and he helps me, I help him, but you can see the value in both of those
Hmm.
personalities, and even when it comes to parenting. And so I've had to really
Hmm.
grow in the area of making a plan because
Yeah.
that does bless your home. And then there's moms that just really have to grow in the area of grace, change,
Mm-hmm.
acceptance, and neither mom is better than the other. It's just
Right.
we spend our life kind of balancing that out and figuring it out. And I think a lot of it honestly does have to do with your husband. I have met a lot of women who have a visionary all over the place husband, and you just learn to enjoy the ride or be
Hmm.
miserable, one of those.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
you have men like my husband who's super type A, and I got to adjust to that and be a blessing. If I'm called to be his helper, I
Hmm.
need to learn how to help him. And then I have a friend who she has more of like a steady man, just quiet, not really sure what they're doing, never really changes. And she's got to kind of go with that. So that impacts a lot of our homemaking too, who our husband is.
For sure. I noticed that when my daughter got married, my oldest daughter, they've been married 10 years. And you and I both have large families. I have 9, you have 11. And I think that, we might start out to organization, in some you might want to organize a little bit, but when you get into those big numbers, sometimes there's a level of organization just for survival. Like, I
Yeah,
need to make sure I bring
exactly.
home the right amount of meat, or we're not going to have
Uh-huh.
enough dinner for everybody. There's some organizational things that I put into place just because the size of my family demanded it. And so
Mhm.
my oldest daughter, being the second born in the family, and she was raised around a lot of order, organization, preparing, like, okay, we're going to go to town and I've got buddy system for the different kids, but I also have in the car, I have a diaper bag. We drove a Sprinter or a Transit, either a Sprinter or a Transit. Like most of the time my children were growing up, which are very large vans for those that are not familiar. And, like 12, 15 passenger vans, but the seating on those was not like directly on the floor. The seating was up a little bit. So I could
Mm-hmm.
put a tote bin underneath each seat. So I like had a tote of boy clothes and a tote of girl clothes. It's an emergency. And I had a tote of
Mm-hmm.
snacks and a tote
So
of,
smart.
first aid kit, like, so if we got
Uh-huh.
stuck anywhere or somebody puked or had a diaper blowout, like I was
Yeah,
prepared. And
amazing.
and my daughter grew up with this, right? I always had everything planned out. My husband's an entrepreneur. And if you don't have like paid vacation, if he does not go to work, we do not have food and our bills
Yeah.
paid, right? So we didn't travel really. We just were really homebodies. We just didn't go out a lot. But when we did, I was prepared for every situation. So then my daughter marries a guy who is like total, like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to go do this? Wouldn't it be fun to go do that? And she was like, wow, I get to do all the things that I never got to do when I was growing up because my parents are boring and they never go anywhere. And
Uh-huh.
she was like all up for the adventure, which was absolutely adorable. He's still that way. And but after they had their first baby, she came home and she was like, Mom, I'm gonna have to change something because he just spontaneously, like, we were in the car and he was like, hey, let's go hiking such and such. So he takes off driving a couple hours away. We go on this really long hike and I did not have enough diapers and I only had one or two wipes, and then I did not have, like, we did not have enough all the things with them, right? And she's like,
Yeah,
I don't want to like kill that adventure part and I
yeah,
want to do all that adventure with him. So what you were saying is like depending on who you're marrying and how can we support our husbands and how can we make that so it works. And for her, I said, you know what? You need to have a bin in your car at all times, just like you grew up in. You have extra diapers, a bottle of water, a couple snacks, whatever, because yeah, you want to totally respond to his spontaneity and zest for life and
yeah.
adventure. But
Mhm.
you know that the baby's gonna need some diaper, like it's like
Yeah.
balancing. How do we do this? How
Hmm.
does it look in the practical? Let's keep the excitement alive so it doesn't look mundane or it doesn't become mundane, but yet we're responsible for the people that look to us for care, right?
Yes, that's right. Hmm. And for some people, they're like, I did not marry somebody like that.
Yeah.
So, and one bit of advice I got was ask your husband what's most important to him out of these three things, which was keeping the home, food, and for us, it was homeschooling. Those were our three things. And he said food is last, which is the only thing I'm good at. That's the only thing I can do is cook. And if he has it
Uh-huh.
his way, he'll have popcorn every night. And I'm just like, of course, the one thing I know how to do, which is cook.
Right.
But that was helpful for me. So menu planning just kind of went into last place. And I
Yeah.
had to do a switcheroo and just be like, all right, I got to learn how to keep the home here because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Right.
yeah, adapting to our husbands is a lifelong skill.
Right. Right. And, on that, I heard a little different twist on that, which I won't explain right now, but I heard four things. It was a little different twist. But the idea of that was sometimes we can feel overwhelmed if we feel like we need to go hit each one of those areas at to perfection, right? We're going to burn
Yeah.
out if we're like, I
Yeah.
have to have a perfect meal on the table. I have to have a perfectly kept house. We have to get every segment of our homeschooling done for the day. Like everything has to be done
Yeah.
perfectly. We will
Yeah.
burn out. But like you said, you
Mhm.
honored your husband and said, what's important to you? Like, how can we do this? And so then you go for that. And you know what?
Mhm.
Today we might have an amazing meal, but the school might not be done quite as well, or the house might be, we probably never got to sweeping today or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a juggling so
Hmm.
that we continue on with joy.
Yeah, exactly. With joy is the key.
And all of this seems like well and good again when we're going by the book, our schedule, and you are a very flexible person. But what about when there's like a big full stop? Have you ever had that? Like, whoa, I'm a really easygoing person, but this one I did not have on my plan. And now I'm really going to have to step back. And
Hmm.
Lord, you're going to have to lead.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, so 2 weeks ago or so, I've been on a bit of a health journey, trying to lose weight, get healthy, and which is a constant thing when you keep having kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I was just really, I'm really succeeding this time and encouraged and walking every day and just feeling really good. And I'm like, you know what? I should go get my cholesterol checked again because last time I had it checked, it was really bad. And I was like, I'm just going to go see if this has helped at all.
Yeah.
So I made an appointment with my midwife, actually, not even my primary. And I just said, hey, I wanted to come get my blood work checked in. She said, sounds good.
Yeah.
So I come in, she's checking takes my blood, and she goes, hey, do you want us to check your thyroid numbers too? And I said, yeah, they're always good, but it doesn't hurt. My mom had thyroid cancer, my grandmother died from thyroid cancer, and my sister has had thyroid cancer. And so we should probably check it. And she kind of looks at me like, because I did not know if your numbers are normal and you have a lump, it's a sign of thyroid cancer. I thought my
Really?
numbers, yeah. So I thought my numbers would be all off and crazy. Sadly, I didn't talk to my sister about this. She's just like, yeah, Katie, if your numbers are normal, that's more concerning because it's not
Oh.
Hashimoto's, it's not hyperthyroidism, it's not hypothyroidism. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to check your thyroid. So she goes and checks and she goes, Katie, you have two huge lumps on your thyroid. And I'm just like, ugh. So you talk about that moment, like the
Yeah.
screeching halt moment. And you even had opened with, or you had talked about how we're going to start our real life once we're done having babies, right?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, that is Katie LaPierre's mindset. All right, Lord, hurry up, get them raised, get them out. I got a lot to do here. And it was just like the Lord just takes my brain like, hey, your life is right now and you aren't
Yeah.
promised tomorrow. And in James, who are you to say tomorrow I'm going to go do this, the next day I'm going to do that, instead if the Lord wills. And of
Mm.
all the things Christ could have prayed, he said, not my will be done, but yours. And he
Mm.
didn't pray that for himself. He prayed that for us. He prayed that so we could understand, hey, it's not your will be done, Katie. It's the Lord's will be done. And it's just like all
Mm.
of this is going through my mind when she says, Katie, you have two large lumps. Keep in mind, I was humiliated online a couple years ago because I had had family photos done and I have quite a few followers on Facebook, and someone was commenting, oh, you have a huge goiter on your neck. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a fat neck and everyone's talking about my neck. And I didn't go get it checked out because I wrote to the person, I'm like, I got my numbers checked. I'm fine. So when she told me I
Mm.
had two large lumps, I was kicking myself because I was like, someone said something 2 years
Immediately
ago.
your brain goes back to that, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wasted 2 years. And so then I am trying not to stress out. I go to see my primary. She orders the ultrasound immediately. And my sister's lump or mass was 1.5 centimeters when she had her ultrasound, and mine is 4.8. Hers had already gone into her neck muscles, into her lymph nodes. So I'm just sobbing on my bed. Like, this is the end for me. Kind of my mind went there. And I'm at 4.8. Hers was already stage 3. Who knows how far gone my cancer is at this point. And it's just been so good for me spiritually. And it's like the
Mm.
Lord goes, hey, what's the name of your ministry? You got eternity in mind right now? No, Lord, I don't. I have a lot of other things in mind. I have a lot of other plans I'm thinking about, but I'm not thinking about eternity. And you're kind of
Mm.
ruining my plan, Lord. This is not what I wanted. I've always been scared of the C word, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My brother actually had cancer when he was young and almost died from it. He's still alive today though, but I've just
Wow.
always been afraid of that C word. And
Right.
my doctor says, okay, we're going to expedite, get this biopsy done, get you in as soon as possible. The soonest they can get me in is February 27th. And so I
Which
was
is
like,
which from
Lord,
the time we're recording, that's almost a month.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll have to, I did share on my ministry page about this journey so far because I thought, why wouldn't I? I share all these other details of my life. And so, anyways, it's just God does some of the best things in our life in a time of waiting.
Yeah,
Nobody likes waiting, but
I agree.
it is just without faith, it is impossible to please God. And what happens in waiting? It's 100% faith. It's 100%.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, I have to trust you, Lord. There's nothing else I can do. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just focus on what I can do, which is I can nurse my baby. I
Mm-hmm.
can sit with my 6-year-old on my bed and have her read to me. I can love on my husband and ask him, hey, is there anything you need for me to do for you today? I can go visit the old ladies in my church. I
Mm-hmm.
can sweep the floor. I can potty train my 2-year. I mean, look at that list. I can,
Mm-hmm.
I can, I can, I can.
Mm-hmm.
I can't know if this is cancer right now. I can't stop it from growing, even though someone's going to try to give me a tincture or something. I can't, I can't do a lot of things, Lord. You're going to have to take all the can'ts because I can't handle the can'ts. You can.
Yeah.
I'm going to handle the cans and I'm going to do them like I opened this time with, whatever you do, work heartily is for the Lord. That's what I'm
Yeah.
going to do, Lord. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I can do. And in a
Mm-hmm.
way, if this is cancer, if it eventually takes my life, like it took my grandmother's life, the other reason I call my ministry Eternally Minded Mamas is when I became a believer in college, I was just like mind blown. This isn't it. This
Mm.
isn't home. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, Lord, this makes everything better. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if God took me home that way, I've thought about one of the blessings would be I would know I'm dying. And so I could just be more bold in proclaiming, it wasn't a freak
Mm-hmm.
car accident or something. And I've just thought about recording a video for my funeral to share. And how
Mm-hmm.
could we make the most, if God did take us home through cancer, how would I make the most of it? And so then it's like I'm casting vision into that rather than having a pity party. And if you want to have a pity party, and then don't go watch Johnny Erickson Tata. I mean, that woman, if I can recommend her ministry, if you're ever feeling sorry for yourself, to be paralyzed from the neck down your entire adult life and be praising God. And then she's diagnosed with, I think, breast cancer and just all the things. And this woman has kept eternity in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
even if
Yeah.
the Lord takes me home, I'm kind of a morbid person, I guess. And I just tell people, we're all dying. You're dying. I'm dying. We're all in the process of
Yeah.
dying. It's just a question of when and when the Lord will take us home. And do we really believe that? We
And
say
what will
it,
we
we talk.
do? What will
Yeah,
we do while we're waiting?
exactly. Exactly. And we're all kind of waiting. That's all kind
Yeah.
of what we're doing. And I love that the psalmist said, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. God could have picked a million things to describe giving us a heart of wisdom. And the one thing he chose was
Hmm.
numbering our days.
Numbering our
Every
days.
day is important. Every day counts. Every day, like you said in that little song,
Ooh.
good morning, Lord, this is your day. You are no longer your own. You were bought at a price. Your
Yeah.
day is God's. My thyroid belongs to God. I am not my own. I own none of it. And when I have that perspective, it's like all that fear. God has not given us a spirit of fear. It all just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely have had a big halt in
Yeah.
my plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I had my youngest when I was 41. And I thought, wow, I'm starting kind of late with him. And, we don't know, we're not guaranteed the future. And I thought, okay, when he is 18, I'll be whatever the math says I will be. What is it? 59, something like that,
Yeah,
and if
good
he stays at
job.
home for a little bit, 60, whatever. And I thought, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so I thought to myself, I want him to love Jesus because Jesus will be with him for forever. And not
Mhm.
just him, but the next one up and the next one up and the next one, like that is where we're eternally minded to also just to pour into our children that which lasts. And
Yeah.
as much as we want to last and we want to be there for them for forever, I know
Mhm.
it's not reasonable, right? I know
Yeah.
it's not
Mhm.
reasonable. And someday, and now I have six grandchildren. So, like, when I see them and I invest in them, it has to do with even like the birthday gifts I give or a Christmas gift. Like, is this thing that I give them going to encourage their walk with the Lord? Is it going to detract from it? Is it something that
Mhm.
would lead them astray? Is it what words can I speak? How can I interact with them? And then, when we get to a little further generation, I'm not there yet. When I'm like, just kind of a little more invalid, I think that is how we can pour into be eternally minded to the next generation, to pray for them and to
Mhm.
support them in through prayer. Like
Mhm.
God's not finished with any of us yet.
Yeah, that's right. He still gave you breath. You better be working for him somehow. Pray and ask him how. I don't know what happened. I feel like the Titus too, and I'm sure you've heard this too, older women. I'm not sure if it's the feminist movement or what happened, but there's this large group of women my age, your age, I feel like that are taking over this Titus 2 ministry model, but it skipped a generation, it feels like. And I'm not sure if retirement came a big focus, if getting into the workforce became a big
Mhm.
focus, if it was no longer looking at a church family and how can I serve? How can I serve in the home?
Yeah.
And so I feel like we have to be intentional. We can't just expect, oh, when I'm an old lady, then I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. We have to make sure we are mentally planning. What is that gonna look like when I get older? How will I
Yeah.
bless my grandchildren? How will I
Yeah.
bless the younger women in church? Because I've had
Yeah.
very few women in my life that have actually walked that. My first
Mm.
mentor in California, she would do what was called Mom's Night Out. She would just bless our socks off, have this huge table full of
Mhm.
beautiful food, lovely music, candles, and just have us and minister to us. And it was gorgeous and wonderful. And that never had that happen again. And
Mhm.
that one
Mhm.
person. So I'm like, Lord, help me multiply that. Help me encourage
Yeah.
older women to be that. They don't have to be
Yeah.
perfect. They just
Right.
need to love the Lord. That's it.
Well, sadly, I think that we need to wrap up our conversation, but I know that people will want to reach out to you, find where to connect online. And so, would you take a second and just tell me website? I know you and your husband actually have a ministry you do together. On
Mhm.
socials, you are Eternally Minded Mama, and then he has a
Mhm.
website that you work together. So, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So about 10 years ago, we started Your Marriage God's Way. It started as a sermon series, and I think it ended up being a year-long sermon series, something crazy. Like God has so much to say about marriage. And so he launched that book. He turned that sermon series into a book, and it's called Your Marriage God's Way on Amazon. And we run a marriage ministry kind of that came out of that book called Your Marriage God's Way, the
Mhm.
website yourmarriagegodsway.org. Our passion is to do about 6 to 8 conferences a year. We've seen God
Wow.
do amazing things through this conference. I tend to go, depending on if I'm pregnant, if I have a baby, or where
Yeah.
I'm at, I average like 3 conferences a year. And so this year I'm going to one in Pennsylvania at a castle,
Oh,
and I'm excited about that. I'm going to one in Arizona. And we just love that. We don't teach on marriage because we have the perfect marriage. In fact, we got in a fight this morning. It was just a fight because I locked the door when I'm trying to take a shower and he's trying to get in and, stupid stuff.
well, we
Thankfully, God's
learn
grace,
through our mistakes.
yes, and God's grace, 20 years in, our fights are much shorter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
So we don't teach marriage conferences because we never fight or we have the perfect marriage. We have a passion for God to know what God's word, or for people to know what God's word says about marriage. And then I run a separate ministry, mostly on Facebook. I have an Instagram page, but I just haven't really launched that very much. So on Facebook, you can find me at Eternally Minded Mamas. And I have this book that I co-wrote with numerous Instagram moms, ironically,
Okay.
that love the Lord. And it's 31 days of a devotional. And I try to like have journal notes so that women can kind of answer the questions I try to put that relate to the entries. And then I have this one that I just rebranded all my books. So they are going to look different. But this one I wrote on my own, and it's 31 days. That's kind of my thing. I have another one coming out next month on Genesis and Exodus through the eyes of motherhood. Loved studying Genesis and Exodus
Wow.
through the eyes of motherhood. So much
Yeah.
insight. One of the
Yeah.
main things to encourage you moms that I learned going through the Old Testament is there's barely any mention of parenting styles with super amazing godly people. And I just was like, God was bringing home, I don't need you. I'll use you, but I don't need you. Like, I
Yeah.
will change their heart. Ezekiel
Hmm.
36:26. God will
Yeah.
give them a new heart, not
Yeah.
Katie will give her children a new
Yeah.
heart. And
Yeah.
the Old Testament's just filled with stories like that where you're like, where's the mom and dad? Oh, well, don't
Yeah.
matter. God's their father and he's working. And
Yep.
so I also have a health journal that I'm coming out with, kind of my health journey. I think I've lost like 70 pounds or something at this point, and just kind of sharing what God has taught me through that, little practical tips how I did it. That's coming
Wow.
out too, and a parenting book as well. And my husband's coming out
Wow.
with a communication book. Yeah. We love books.
Yeah.
We go away on a writing retreat together, so we're doing that in a couple weeks.
Wow. You guys are busy, busy all the
Yeah.
time. All the time.
Yeah.
So, well, it is good to catch up with you and hear how the Lord is working in your life. And as you trust Him in this season right now with your thyroid. And um, I just appreciate you taking the time out to visit with us today. And I wonder if you would close us out in a word of prayer.
You bet. Okay. Father, thank you so much for your word, for your truth. Thank you that motherhood may feel mundane, but when we're serving the King of Kings, it's thrilling. And I love, Lord, that we can mop and sweep and we can disciple our children and find such pleasure in it because we know we're serving you. We're not even serving our children, Lord. We're ultimately serving you, and you are so good to us. You sent your son to die for us. The least we can do, Lord, is to serve you with the rest of our lives. And I want to thank you for Pam and this ministry. I pray that you would just spread the word about it, Lord, because moms need encouragement, but not just encouragement. We need biblical truth and spiritually minded encouragement. So thank you for her ministry. May it grow abundantly. In your name, amen.
Amen. All right, friends, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye. I hope that you've been encouraged or challenged in your faith today, and that something we discussed prompts you to grow deeper in your walk with the Lord. If it has, make sure you tell a friend so they can grow along with you. And if you or a friend would like to be a guest and share about God's faithfulness in your life, please email me at podcast@tendingfields.net. Because when we tell of God's faithfulness, we never run out of stories.
Whatever is true.